Hey everyone, welcome to the Anxiety Project YouTube channel. Today I'm talking about the sensations of having a heart attack. You go to the doctor says you have anxiety and there's nothing wrong, and you feel a sense of relief. You're like, oh my God, thank you, it's nothing, I get to live to see another day, and life goes on, and you leave, and then a day or 2 days later, you have the same sensations. You panic, you overanalyze them, and then you wind up back in the doctor's office. Now, everyone has an emotional bank account. You might have heard this before, where you're in a relationship with someone and they've lied to you, they've manipulated you, they betrayed you, and they've withdrawn so much from that emotional bank account from within you. So that person has withdrawn so much that they're in the negatives. And that's when relationships fall apart. That's when fighting occurs often. And that's when you doubt the relationship, is when they've withdrawn so much from your emotional bank account, where unless they start depositing more, say they start to put their lives together, they start to get a grip and become more orderly, and they want to put the pieces back together. If they don't do that, then the relationship is going to fall apart. Unless they deposit those emotions back in, the relationship's going to fail. So we each have an emotional bank account that we can withdraw from ourselves. So for instance, you lied to someone, or you feel guilty about something, or you did something to betray someone else, or you are very dependent on other people. You're just withdrawing so much from your own bank account that you need to start depositing and putting stuff back in, so that we can become awake and aware and strong, confident, happy, resilient. And until you start depositing into your own emotional bank account, you're not going to get anything out of that negative state. You've withdrawn so much, you're walking around with anxiety. You're walking around with extreme sensations from the amygdala, the fight, flight, and freeze response. Unless you start to give back, unless you start to go into those fearful environments, unless you're willing to embrace those sensations and accept those sensations, how are you going to get to a place where you feel confident, resilient, and strong and powerful? So there's been a time when you overreacted to your heart. There's been a time where you experienced a traumatic event, and these traumatic events can vary. You could have been a little boy or girl who was around their parent or your parent, and they had health anxiety, and they ruminated over their health. And unconsciously, you absorbed all of that information, because when we're young, we're sponges. We absorb all of that information. All of those beliefs get ingrained within us. And whether it's a loss of a loved one, whether it's overreaction to a sensation, we have to understand that those traumatic events get stored within our bodies, and they're an energetic buildup. So that energetic buildup is stored within you, and now you are, sorry, that's just a tractor driving by. So now those energetic buildups keep manifesting. They could even manifest into an illness in the future unless we release them, unless we look at our sensations differently, unless we become more spiritual and take care of our spiritual body, mental body, emotional body, and physical body. We have to start taking care of our whole self, and we have to start giving back and depositing the emotional currency back into us. And then we will start to feel more confident. If you're not willing to face that fearful environment, then how are you going to retrain the amygdala? Because at this point, the amygdala is fearing that certain environment because you may have had a panic attack in that environment and now you're avoiding it. So now that you're avoiding that environment, that's only strengthening that pathway within your brain. That's saying fear that place. Everything associated to that environment is scary. So now that you're avoiding it, you're going to have sensations, heart sensations, whatever it is. There's many sensations that anxiety causes, but in this video I'm talking about the heart. You might be in a different environment, say you're in a classroom, and then the same thing happens again. You start to fear your heart beating. And then you start to fear being judged by other people because you don't want to look like a fool running away from that environment. And so then if you run away from that environment, you're just strengthening another pathway that's saying fear that environment. So now you're fearing that environment, and then you're fearing another environment, and then you wind up with agoraphobia, and you're inside and afraid to leave the house because you're afraid of having that heart sensation out in public, and that fear of dying in front of other people and being humiliated while you do it. So to overcome the sensations and the feeling of having a heart attack, there's many things that need to be done. Many things. One is to gain some more order in your life, but that's not just the only thing. It's about facing the sensations. When you start to face those sensations in that environment and not run away, it's important to look at the sensations differently, perceive them differently. You know, your heart could be beating fast, and instead of all of those what if thinkings, instead of all those what if thoughts, use some rational thoughts. Rational thoughts can be, I'm just excited right now, because excitement and anxiety, very similar. I remember being at a symphony once and my heart was beating fast, and I started to perceive it differently. I'm using my rational thoughts. I'm like, you know what? I'm actually excited right now because I'm with my girlfriend right now. I'm sitting in a symphony hall. I'm listening to beautiful music. I'm excited to be outside. So I started to change my perceptions over the sensations. And visualization exercises, huge. In the morning, this should be part of your morning routine. Visualize how you want the day to go. How do you want the day to go? Visualize yourself disassociated, walking around your office, driving to work, eating breakfast. I'm going backwards. Lunch, dinner. Visualize the whole day from morning until night of how you want the day to go. And when you visualize that, you're sending messages straight to your unconscious mind. And your unconscious mind is running the show. Your unconscious mind is running who you are. So once you start to show the unconscious mind that, hey, you know what? This is how I want my day to go instead. This is how I want to be instead. This is how I want to act instead. You're going to start to manifest the new you. You're going to overcome those challenges, those situations where You expect anxiety to occur. Now you are going into your environment with new tools. Now you're confronting chaos with a shield and sword. That's what's important. It's to prepare yourself, because a lot of anxiety sufferers wake up and then they jump out of bed and then they go about their day without the tools, without the techniques, without the sword and shield. So it's important to prepare yourself. Maybe you're expecting to be anxious at a job meeting or an interview or a presentation or just sitting in a classroom. Maybe you're anxious about that. Maybe you're fearing you might have to run away. Prepare yourself. Do a visualization exercise. Visualize yourself from morning until night, how you want the day to go, how you want to perceive those heart sensations. And lastly, get a doctor's note. A doctor's note, because that is a rational thought in and of itself. You pin that to your fridge or your door, and you use rational thoughts and read over the doctor's note, because that's evidence. That doctor's note is evidence that you are healthy. And to use that fact that, from your doctor, evidence with rational thoughts, you're going to have a much better day. You're going to add rational thoughts to your fearful thoughts. And that's going to shift your perception over your heart sensation, that fear of having a heart attack. Because you've been to the doctors already multiple times and they say you're okay. And also, 90% of the patients that show up at a hospital perceiving to have a heart attack are not actually having a heart attack. 90%. I heard that from a doctor. 90% of people who go to the hospital think they're having a heart attack, but they're not. It's anxiety. Very interesting. So after you go to your doctor, you grab evidence that you are healthy, pin that up, and use that to counter your fearful thoughts. And that's today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you on the next video. Do not let anxiety define who you are. Bye-bye.